March 2, 1945. Pentagon Building, Arlington, Virginia. Major Robert McKnight places his hand on a photograph and slides it beneath a stack of targeting maps. The photograph shows a Tokyo street from 1938. Wooden machiya townhouses with latticed windows. An elderly woman sweeping the entrance. 2 children playing near a well. He took that photograph 7 years ago during his doctoral research. Now, that same street is designated Target Sector 47 on the operational map in front of him. He does not look at the photograph again. McKnight is 34 years old. He holds a doctorate in urban planning from Columbia University. Before the war, he published his dissertation on traditional Japanese residential architecture, a work that earned him minor academic recognition and an assistant professorship he never occupied. December 1941 interrupted those plans. He enlisted 3 weeks after Pearl Harbor, expecting to serve in logistics or training. Instead, the Army discovered his expertise and assigned him to the analytical section of the 20th Air Force. His job is to understand how Japanese cities are constructed, so American bombers can destroy them more efficiently. The irony is not lost on him. He spent 3 years studying Japanese architecture because he admired it. The elegance of joinery, the economy of space, the way entire communities were built from renewable materials, designed to last generations. He walked those streets. He interviewed the carpenters. He learned why they positioned support beams at specific intervals, why they used particular types of wood, why the roofs were angled precisely to shed rain and snow. Now he knows why those same design choices make the structures exceptionally flammable. The door opens. Brigadier General Thomas Whitman enters without knocking. He is 52, a career logistics officer who speaks in tonnages and timelines. He drops a folder on the table marked Confidential. Tokyo Analysis. I need your assessment by Tuesday. McKnight opens the folder. Inside are aerial reconnaissance photographs and targeting maps divided into numbered sectors. He recognizes the neighborhoods immediately. Fukagawa, Honjo, Asakusa. These are not industrial zones. These are residential districts where factory workers live in wooden houses packed close together to maximize limited urban space. What is the objective? McKnight asks, though he already suspects the answer. Maximum structural damage with minimum ordnance expenditure. LeMay believes precision targeting is wasting resources. High explosive bombs create craters. Craters get filled. But if we burn the cities, we eliminate the workforce, the cottage industry production, the will to continue. One night, one city, complete destruction. McKnight has heard this logic before. It justified Hamburg. It justified Dresden. The theory is straightforward. Japanese war production depends on thousands of small workshops integrated into residential areas. Destroy the neighborhoods, and you destroy the production capacity. Civilian casualties are not the objective, but they are mathematically inevitable. He thinks about the photograph under the maps, the woman sweeping, the children playing. He does not remove the photograph. We have 334 B-29s available, Whitman continues. Each carries approximately 7 tons of incendiaries. Your job is optimal drop patterns, altitude, spacing, wind exploitation. I want maximum conflagration spread. McKnight nods. He has been preparing for this assignment for weeks, running preliminary calculations, studying meteorological data, mapping water infrastructure. He knows what is being asked. He also knows there is no one else in the Army who can do this work with his level of precision. If he refuses, someone less knowledgeable will attempt the analysis and fail. The operation will proceed regardless. American bombers will drop incendiaries on Tokyo, whether or not the targeting is optimized. The only variable McKnight controls is efficiency. He tells himself this is a technical problem, just mathematics and meteorology, wind vectors and combustion rates. If he allows himself to think about the people living in those wooden houses, he cannot function. So he chooses not to think about them. M69 incendiary clusters, he asks. Correct, magnesium gel bomblets. They ignite on impact, burn above 2,000 degrees, cannot be extinguished with water. McKnight is familiar with the M69. It was engineered specifically for Japanese construction. The magnesium ignites wood. The gel adheres to surfaces and continues burning. Water causes the gel to spread, making firefighting counterproductive. From a technical standpoint, it is an elegant solution to a combustion problem. He spreads the Tokyo maps across the table. His hand moves over Sector 47 without pausing. Wind direction will be critical. March brings northwest winds averaging 15 to 20 knots. If we target eastern districts and allow fire to spread westward, natural convection will accelerate the burn. Narrow streets will create chimney effects, increasing temperatures and preventing evacuation. Whitman writes this down. McKnight watches him write. There is something dreamlike about the conversation. They are discussing the systematic incineration of a city with the same clinical detachment a demolition engineer might apply to bringing down a condemned building. Population density? Whitman asks. McKnight hesitates. This is the question he has been avoiding. He has the data. He calculated it weeks ago, but speaking the numbers aloud makes them real. Shitamachi districts average 40,000 people per square kilometer, primarily working-class families, multiple generations per household. Fire response capacity? Tokyo has 8,000 firefighters and 2,000 fire engines. Against a saturation attack covering 40 square kilometers, response will be negligible. If we simultaneously target municipal water stations, hydrant pressure fails within 30 minutes. Whitman continues taking notes. McKnight continues providing data. Neither man acknowledges what the data represents. Neither man speaks the word that hangs between them. Murder. Because that word makes this something other than war, something other than strategic necessity. Casualties? Whitman asks. The question sits in the air. McKnight has run the projections. He knows the answer. He has known it for days. But saying the number transforms it from an abstract calculation into a decision he is making. Based on population density, structural composition, and projected burn area, estimated fatalities range between 80,000 and 120,000. He hears his own voice speaking these numbers as if from a great distance. 80,000, 120,000. The numbers are incomprehensible. He cannot visualize 80,000 people. The mind cannot contain that scale of death. So the numbers remain abstract, sterile, just variables in an equation. Whitman shows no reaction. He has seen casualty projections before. The invasion of Okinawa currently underway is expected to cost 50,000 American lives. The planned invasion of mainland Japan is projected to cost 500,000. Against those numbers, 100,000 Japanese casualties in a single night is strategically acceptable. Complete your analysis by Tuesday. LeMay wants to execute within the week. Whitman leaves. McKnight stands alone with his maps. He looks at the stack of papers where he hid the photograph. He could remove it now. He could look at that street, those people, and ask himself what he is doing. He could walk out of this office, request a transfer, refuse the assignment on moral grounds. He does not remove the photograph. Instead, he pulls out his calculation sheets and begins working. Over the next 72 hours, he will work 18-hour days. He will calculate optimal bombing altitudes. He will determine that releasing incendiaries from 5,000 feet rather than 20,000 will improve accuracy. He will map ignition points to maximize fire spread, targeting intersections where flames can advance in multiple directions simultaneously. He will study wind patterns and learn that March winds in Tokyo strengthen after midnight, reaching peak velocity between 2 and 4 in the morning. He will recommend bomber arrival at midnight to allow strengthening winds to drive flames through residential districts exactly when evacuation becomes most difficult. He will identify water pumping stations and recommend including them in the target set. Without water pressure, firefighting becomes impossible. People will have two choices: burn or run. Most will not run fast enough. He will create detailed drop pattern maps. 334 aircraft, 40 incendiary clusters per aircraft, 48 bomblets per cluster. Over 600,000 individual fires igniting simultaneously across an area roughly the size of Manhattan. The mathematics will be perfect. The methodology will be flawless. On Tuesday morning, March the 6th, 1945, McKnight submits his 73-page report to General Whitman. The report contains no photographs. It contains graphs, charts, wind vectors, temperature projections, and combustion rate calculations. It is technically brilliant. Whitman reads it in 2 hours and calls McKnight to his office. "Outstanding work, Major. LeMay has approved the operation for March 9th. You will observe from the command center on Guam." McKnight nods. He feels something that might be professional satisfaction. He has solved an extraordinarily complex problem. He has done exactly what was asked of him. After Tokyo, prepare similar analyses for Nagoya, Osaka, Kobe, and Yokohama. LeMay believes this approach can be replicated across all major Japanese cities. That evening, McKnight returns to his office. The photograph is still under the maps where he left it. He pulls it out and looks at it for exactly 10 seconds. The street, the woman, the children. He tries to remember their faces. He cannot. 7 years is too long. They are strangers in a photograph from a country he visited once when he was young and believed architecture was about creating beauty instead of calculating its destruction. He places the photograph in his desk drawer and closes it. Tomorrow he flies to Guam. In 7 days, he will discover whether his mathematics work in practice. March 9th, 1945. 2100 hours, North Field, Guam. Major Robert McKnight stands in the operations center watching 334 B-29 Superfortresses taxi toward the runway. General Curtis LeMay walks between the radio stations, hands behind his back, saying nothing. McKnight has not slept in 36 hours. He spent yesterday reviewing final targeting coordinates with bomber crews, verifying that every navigator understood the approach vectors he designed. The crews asked few questions. They are exhausted from months of high-altitude precision bombing missions that accomplished little. Cloud cover obscured targets. Jet stream winds scattered bomb patterns. Tonight is different. Tonight they will fly at 5,000 feet carrying only incendiaries. No defensive ammunition. Maximum payload. They will approach from the east and allow fires to spread westward with the wind. McKnight calculated every variable. The crews simply have to execute. He tells himself he is an observer. The decision to firebomb Tokyo was made far above his rank. But standing here watching the bombers depart, he knows that distinction is a comfortable lie. Without his analysis, this mission would not exist in its current form. The targeting map bears his handwriting. The altitude recommendations came from his calculations. The timing was his idea. The first aircraft lifts off at 2130 hours. One by one, the remaining bombers follow. By 2320 hours, the last aircraft is airborne and the field falls silent. LeMay approaches. Your projections assumed northwest winds at 18 knots. Current conditions? 17 knots, gusting to 22, within acceptable parameters. LeMay nods and walks away. McKnight sits at an unused desk and opens his notebook. Inside is the photograph from 1938. The Tokyo street. The woman sweeping, the children playing. He brought it from Washington, though he is not certain why. He looks at it for 30 seconds, then closes the notebook. The bombers will reach Tokyo in 6 hours. McKnight has nothing to do but wait. At 0347 hours, the first radio transmission arrives. Lead navigator reports visual contact with Tokyo Bay. Weather clear. Winds northwest at 19 knots. Anti-aircraft fire concentrated over industrial zones. Residential districts undefended. Everything is proceeding exactly as McKnight calculated. At 0415 hours, the first incendiaries fall. 3 minutes of radio silence. Then the lead bombardier reports. Fires established. Multiple ignition points confirmed. McKnight feels something tighten in his chest. His model predicted distinct fire zones that would gradually merge. The bombardier is confirming that prediction. Mathematics is becoming fire. At 0547 hours, the last bomber completes its run. The mission commander transmits, target area completely engulfed, fires visible from 150 miles, no aircraft losses, operation successful. The operations center erupts in subdued celebration. LeMay walks to McKnight. Your projections were accurate, Major. We will begin planning Nagoya immediately. McKnight nods. He should feel satisfaction. His solution worked flawlessly. But he feels nothing except a strange numbness. At 1340 hours, the reconnaissance photographs arrive. An intelligence officer spreads them across the table. McKnight steps forward. The images show uniform gray ash stretching across 41 square kilometers. Where neighborhoods existed 12 hours ago, there is nothing. The intelligence officer points to features on the photos. 16 square miles completely destroyed. Preliminary casualty estimates suggest 100,000 dead. 100,000. McKnight predicted 80,000 to 120,000. His estimate was accurate. He feels a brief flash of professional pride. He was right. The model worked. His calculations were precise. Then he realizes what he is proud of. He accurately predicted 100,000 deaths. He is being congratulated for forecasting mass killing with scientific precision. LeMay enters carrying additional photographs. Lower altitude, more detailed. He spreads them on the table without comment. McKnight sees bodies. Thousands lined along a canal where people entered the water to escape the heat. The water boiled. They died anyway. He sees children, families, people who burned or suffocated or were crushed in the evacuation panic his calculations predicted would occur. Excellent work, Major, LeMay says. We are accelerating Nagoya. I want your targeting analysis within 48 hours. McKnight hears himself say, Sir, I would like to recommend modifications to the Nagoya approach. LeMay stops, looks at him. What modifications? McKnight has not planned what to say. The words emerge without conscious thought. Evacuation corridors. We could exclude certain streets from the fire pattern. Allow civilian egress before the conflagration merges. The operations center goes quiet. Other officers turn to look. LeMay's expression does not change. Evacuation corridors would reduce target coverage by approximately 30%. We would need additional missions to achieve equivalent destruction. That means more American crews at risk, more fuel consumed, more time before Japan surrenders. Yes, sir, but civilian casualties could be reduced significantly if we... Major McKnight. LeMay's voice is not angry. It is perfectly calm. We are not bombing civilians. We are bombing war production capacity that happens to be located in residential areas. Every Japanese factory worker building aircraft parts in their home is a legitimate military target. Every workshop producing munitions is a legitimate target. The neighborhoods themselves are the factory. Do you understand? McKnight understands. He understands that LeMay is offering him a rational framework to avoid confronting what they are actually doing. He understands that accepting this framework allows him to continue functioning. He understands that rejecting it accomplishes nothing except ending his career and ensuring someone less knowledgeable designs the next attack. I understand, sir. Good. Nagoya analysis. 48 hours. LeMay leaves. McKnight stands alone with the photographs. An intelligence officer approaches quietly. Sir, we have additional ground reconnaissance images. They show the casualties in detail. I can restrict access if you prefer. I need to see them. The officer retrieves a folder marked Restricted. Inside are photographs taken by teams entering the burned zones. Bodies stacked in intersections. Entire families burned together. Children who died holding their parents. A woman clutching an infant. Both reduced to ash but still recognizable as human forms. McKnight forces himself to look at each photograph. He designed the fire pattern that killed them. He calculated the ignition points. He determined the timing that trapped them between advancing flames. He knew residential districts would burn. He knew families lived there. He chose not to think about them as people. Now they are dead, and his mathematics were perfect. That evening, McKnight receives orders. Report to targeting section 0600 hours. Begin analysis of Nagoya, Osaka, Kobe, Yokohama. Replicate Tokyo methodology. LeMay wants to burn 66 cities before the invasion. McKnight returns to his quarters. He opens his notebook and looks at the 1938 photograph. The street is gone. The woman is probably dead. The children are probably dead. They died because he made no mistakes in his calculations. He closes the notebook and opens the Nagoya targeting folder. The city maps are already on his desk. Street layouts, population density figures, industrial zone locations, wind pattern data, everything he needs to replicate his success. He picks up his pencil and begins marking sectors. His hand is steady. The work is familiar now. Just mathematics and meteorology, wind vectors and combustion rates. If he allows himself to think about the people living in those wooden houses, he cannot function. So he chooses not to think about them. He works through the night, calculating optimal drop patterns for a city he visited once when he was young and believed architecture was about creating beauty. By dawn, he has identified the most efficient ignition points. The mathematics are perfect. Somewhere in the back of his mind, a voice asks whether he could simply refuse. Walk away, request transfer. Accept whatever consequences come from saying no. But he knows the answer. Someone else would do this work. Someone less precise. Someone who would make errors that would require more missions, more bombs, more American casualties to achieve the same result. His expertise saves American lives. That is what he tells himself as he continues working. The system does not need him to be enthusiastic. It does not need him to believe. It only needs him to be competent, and he is very, very competent. May 12, 1945. North Field, Guam. Major Robert McKnight submits his final targeting analysis. Osaka. The report is 68 pages. It contains detailed combustion models, wind pattern projections, and optimal ignition sequences for a city of 3.2 million people. The methodology is identical to Tokyo, refined through repetition across Nagoya, Kobe, and Yokohama. He has become extraordinarily efficient at this work. What required 72 hours for Tokyo now takes 48. He knows which neighborhoods burn fastest. He knows how to calculate evacuation failure rates. He knows the exact timing required to trap maximum population between converging fire fronts. He has transformed the destruction of cities into a repeatable process. General LeMay reviews the Osaka analysis in 90 minutes and approves it without modifications. The operation is scheduled for June 1st. McKnight does not ask about casualty projections anymore. The numbers are predictable. Population density multiplied by burn area divided by evacuation capacity. The equation never changes. On August 6, 1945, McKnight is preparing targeting analysis for city number 47 when news arrives that a single aircraft has destroyed Hiroshima with one bomb. The reports are fragmentary, almost incomprehensible. One bomb, entire city gone. Casualties estimated between 70,000 and 150,000. McKnight reads the reports with professional interest. He knows nothing about atomic weapons beyond rumors that some kind of special project existed. But the casualty figures are familiar. He killed 100,000 people in Tokyo using 334 aircraft and 1,800 tons of incendiaries. Someone else just achieved equivalent destruction with one aircraft and one bomb. He feels something that might be relief. His methodology is obsolete. Whatever new horror has been invented makes his expertise irrelevant. Perhaps the war will end before he has to burn city number 47. On August 9th, a second atomic bomb destroys Nagasaki. On August 15th, Japan surrenders. The war is over. McKnight receives orders to return to the United States. He will be demobilized with honors, promoted to lieutenant colonel, awarded the Legion of Merit for distinguished service in the development and execution of strategic bombing operations. The citation mentions his innovative analytical methods and their significant contribution to shortening the war. He flies home in September. His wife meets him at the airport in Philadelphia. She has not seen him in 18 months. She tells him he looks older. He is 35, but could pass for 45. He does not tell her what he did during those 18 months. She does not ask. The Army offers him permanent commission. He declines. He has no desire to continue military service. The Army offers him consultant positions with strategic planning divisions. He declines those as well. He wants nothing more to do with targeting, optimization, or efficiency calculations. In October 1945, McKnight accepts a position as Associate Professor of Urban Planning at the University of Pennsylvania. It is the same position he was offered in 1941 before the war interrupted his academic career. He will teach courses on city infrastructure, residential development, and architectural preservation. He will not teach courses on fire dynamics or demolition theory. His colleagues welcome him warmly. Several are veterans themselves. They understand that men returning from war need time to readjust. They do not press him with questions about his service. The department chairman mentions that McKnight's pre-war dissertation on Japanese residential architecture remains highly regarded. Perhaps he might consider publishing an updated edition now that the war has ended. McKnight says he will think about it. He does not say that his dissertation has been classified by the Army, because it contains detailed structural analysis that informed his targeting methodology. He does not say that his academic research on traditional Japanese construction techniques was used to calculate optimal incendiary placement for maximum civilian casualties. In November, he teaches his first class, Introduction to Urban Planning. 23 students, most of them veterans attending on the GI Bill. He lectures on zoning regulations, traffic flow optimization, and residential density calculations. The mathematics are familiar. The same equations he used to plan fire spreads can be used to plan street layouts. The same density calculations that determined casualty rates can determine housing needs. The students take notes diligently. None of them know what their professor did during the war. In December 1945, McKnight receives a letter forwarded through Army channels. The envelope bears Japanese characters and a return address in Tokyo. He opens it carefully. The letter is in English, written in precise academic prose. Dear Professor McKnight, I am Takeshi Yamamoto, Professor of Architecture at Tokyo Imperial University. I survived the March 10th fire with my family by fortune of being in Yokohama that evening. I have returned to Tokyo to participate in reconstruction planning. I am studying the fire patterns from the March attack as part of developing improved urban fire prevention codes. The fire spread exhibited remarkable consistency and geometric precision. I have obtained your pre-war dissertation through academic exchange networks and recognized immediately that the combustion patterns correspond exactly to structural vulnerabilities you identified in traditional Machiya construction. Your analysis of load-bearing timber placement, roof material flammability, and street width effects on fire propagation appears to have informed the targeting strategy. I write to request permission to reference your dissertation in my reconstruction research. Your expertise in Japanese residential architecture may prove invaluable in designing fire-resistant neighborhoods for the new Tokyo. I hope this request finds you well. With deep respect for your scholarship, Professor Takeshi Yamamoto. McKnight reads the letter 3 times. Professor Yamamoto does not know. He genuinely believes McKnight's dissertation was pure academic research, coincidentally useful for understanding the fire patterns. He has no idea that McKnight personally designed those patterns. He is asking the man who killed 100,000 Tokyo residents for scholarly advice on preventing future fires. McKnight puts the letter in his desk drawer. He cannot answer it. What would he say? Thank you for your interest in my work. Yes, I did use my architectural knowledge to optimize the fire that destroyed your city. Your observations about geometric precision are correct. I calculated those geometries specifically to maximize casualties. I am pleased my methodology was successful. He cannot write that. But he also cannot write anything else. Any response would be built on lies. The letter remains in his drawer unanswered. In January 1946, the University of Pennsylvania hosts a reception honoring returning veteran faculty. McKnight attends reluctantly. A dean gives a speech praising the contributions of university personnel to the war effort. He specifically mentions McKnight's work with the Army Air Forces, though details remain classified. Colleagues congratulate McKnight. One asks if he will eventually be able to discuss his wartime research. McKnight says perhaps someday. In March 1946, McKnight receives a package from the War Department. Inside is his Legion of Merit medal and citation. There is also a letter from General LeMay, now commanding general of the Strategic Air Command. The letter thanks McKnight for his exceptional service and notes that his methodologies are being incorporated into permanent Air Force doctrine. The letter concludes, "Your work saved countless American lives and shortened the war. The nation owes you a debt of gratitude." McKnight puts the medal in the same drawer as Professor Yamamoto's unanswered letter. In April, he is invited to speak at an urban planning conference in Boston. The topic is post-war reconstruction in Europe and Asia. Other speakers discuss the Marshall Plan, rebuilding infrastructure, and designing cities resilient to future conflicts. McKnight is asked to speak about Japanese urban architecture and reconstruction challenges. He declines the invitation. In May 1946, McKnight sits in his university office preparing the lecture notes. Through the window, he can see students walking across campus. Spring. Trees blooming. Young men and women who did not have to fight in the war beginning their adult lives. On his desk are 2 folders. One contains his current research on Philadelphia zoning reform. The other contains Professor Yamamoto's letter, now 5 months old, still unanswered. He has tried multiple times to write a response. Each attempt fails. He cannot tell the truth. He cannot construct a comfortable lie. So he does nothing. Professor Yamamoto has sent 2 follow-up letters. Both remain unanswered. The second letter mentions that he has been unable to locate certain sections of McKnight's dissertation. Would Professor McKnight have access to the complete manuscript? There are specific chapters on wind effects and timber combustion that would be extraordinarily valuable for reconstruction planning. Those chapters are classified. They are classified because McKnight expanded them during the war into detailed fire propagation models used for targeting 66 Japanese cities. McKnight understands what he has become. He is a man who cannot answer a simple letter from a fellow academic because doing so requires confronting what he did. He is a man who receives medals for work he cannot discuss. He is a man whose expertise killed more people in one night than died in most historical battles, and who did it with such precision that even the survivors admire his methodology. He did not commit war crimes by any legal definition. He followed orders. He served his country. He helped end a war that Japan started. He saved American lives. Every justification is technically correct, but 100,000 people burned to death in Tokyo because his calculations were accurate. Thousands more died in Nagoya, Osaka, Kobe, Yokohama. The fires spread exactly as he predicted. The evacuation failures occurred on schedule. The casualty rates matched his projections. He was not a pilot. He did not drop bombs. He never saw Japan during the war. He simply drew lines on maps and calculated numbers on paper. The system transformed his mathematics into fire. The system congratulated him for his precision. The system gave him medals and promoted him and classified his work so the methodology could be preserved for future use. And the system never once suggested he had done anything wrong. McKnight picks up his pen and pulls out a sheet of university letterhead. He writes, "Dear Professor Yamamoto," and stops. His hand will not move further. He puts the pen down. He folds the blank letter and places it in the drawer with the others. Outside his window, students walk to class carrying books about building cities, designing communities, creating spaces where people can live. Inside his office, McKnight sits with an unanswered letter from a man who wants his help rebuilding what he destroyed. He will not answer the letter today, perhaps not ever, because answering requires choosing between truth and continued silence, and both choices are impossible. The afternoon light fades. McKnight does not turn on his desk lamp. He sits in the growing darkness with his unanswered letters and his classified research and his medals for exceptional service. Somewhere in Tokyo, Professor Yamamoto is designing fire-resistant neighborhoods for a city that burned because the mathematics were perfect. He does not know the man he wrote to calculated those fires. He believes he is corresponding with a fellow scholar who shares his passion for architecture and urban safety. McKnight closes the drawer. Tomorrow, he will teach young architects how to design cities. He will help them understand load distribution, material selection, and structural integrity. He will teach them to create buildings that last, neighborhoods that function, communities that thrive. He will not tell them how the same knowledge can be used to destroy everything it was meant to protect. The office is dark now. McKnight sits motionless. Outside, the university bells mark the hour. Students hurry to evening classes. Life continues. Inside the drawer, Professor Yamamoto's letters wait for an answer that will never come.